On this episode of Locked On Angels, the Halos played a close weekend series against the Astros, and they showed us why they aren't quite ready to compete. And we're going to explain what we mean today. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. One of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're into our fourth season as the host of Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball with you every weekday, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. We're so happy to be here as your Super Halo host. On today's show, we're giving you our takeaways from the weekend. We'll go through each game and give you our important takeaways. Plus, we'll get into the conversation about maybe the biggest news of the weekend. Ron Washington is not going to be the manager for the foreseeable future. We'll talk about what that means as we get into our recap of Friday night's loss. Mike, it was a 3-2 loss for the Angels to open up this series against the Astros, and it was on a wild pitch in the 10th inning. We'll talk about that as we go through our takeaways for Friday.
Yeah, we'll talk about Wash and his indefinite leave in just a moment. But, John, this was a game that got away. The Halos had multiple opportunities to take the lead in this game, and they failed. Angels had the bases loaded 3 different times and just didn't capitalize in this game. First, they loaded the bases in the bottom of the third, and Taylor Ward grounded out. He swung at a 2-0 pitch right after there was a hit by pitch and a walk. So stop me if you've heard this before, but Taylor Ward, stop helping the opposing pitcher, please. Stop doing that.
Read the room also?
Yes.
Like, read the room. Yeah.
Goodness gracious, right? I know you're a guess hitter. I want you to take one more pitch. I want you to guess on one more pitch. That's what I want.
I know what to do. Guess what the pitcher is going to do. He's going to either walk you or hit you with a pitch, right?
Right. Yeah. Second time the Halos loaded the bases was in the bottom of the 6th inning, and O'Hoppe and Rengifo struck out. And then the last time they loaded the bases was in the bottom of the 8th inning, and Christian Moore struck out. John, in this game, they were 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position and left 11 men on base. Just not good on Friday night.
Yeah, when it's a 3-2 loss in extra innings because of a wild pitch, it's moments that you look back on, and to see them 3 times with the bases loaded and not be able to deliver is just a massive, massive failure. And you had your opportunities and you let them get away. Now, here's how the Halos did get on the board. It was 2 solo home runs in this game. Jo Adell hit his 9th home run in the month of June, his 16th of the season, and he hit it in the 4th inning. Mike, I said that we were going to spend all 3 segments you apologizing to me. So, we're going to pivot now, and you're just going to spend the rest of the show apologizing to me and Jo Adell. Here we go.
Okay. I'm sorry, Jo Adell, and I'm sorry, John Frisch.
All right.
You've proven me wrong again.
Let's see. We've got about 26 more minutes, so go ahead. No,
all right. That's the rest of the show. John, Christian Moore had his first home run in his major league career in this game. Bottom 7, and it tied the game at that moment. And it was great, John, just to see him clutch up. And he showed that in spring training. I know it was against some of the B-level and C-level pitchers, but he was a part of the teams in spring training, along with Kyron Paris, that came back and had some really good at-bats late in the game. John, Moore also had a really great diving catch to end the top of the 8th inning for the Astros. He dove to his left, he laid out, and grabbed a line drive off the bat of Yenner Diaz.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. On the mound, Yusei Kikuchi was really good. 7 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs on 2 solo home runs. Didn't walk anybody, and he had 9 strikeouts, Mike. This is yet another great start from Yusei Kikuchi, the guy that we really wanted when we signed him. Also, no walks is super significant because he's got a lot of stuff that plays out of the zone. It starts in the zone and then it drifts out. But you know that he was deceptive because he had those 9 strikeouts, threw a great mix of pitches on Friday, kept the Astros off balance, threw that curveball 30% of the time, threw the slider 29% of the time, his four-seam fastball 22% of the time, and then his changeup 17% of the time. Listen to this. He got 33 called strikes plus whiffs against the Astros. So either they were swinging and missing or it was in the zone for a called strike. Kikuchi has been fantastic in the month of June. 1-1 record, a 2.88 ERA across 4 starts, 25 innings, 22 hits, only 8 walks, and 29 strikeouts with a 1.20 whip. That's a very good whip, and I know you're a fan of whip.
Yes. John, 3 Angels got hit by pitch in this game. Neto, Trout, and Rengifo. Obviously, the most notable was against Neto. It was in the bottom of the 3rd, and that fired Neto up. He was hit by Hunter Brown. Benches cleared. Nothing came of it, but he was fired up. Zach Neto was fired up because Hunter Brown hit him in a game last year, and so once he got hit again, he said, that's twice. Now, Zach Neto, on getting hit by Hunter Brown, he said, hey, there's no disrespect between me and him. He's having a really good year, and I know it wasn't intentional, but it was more just of an adrenaline thing, and it was just a moment thing. Things escalated really quickly. Now, this isn't the first time that Zach Neto has yelled back at the pitcher about getting hit or about having a moment where he's just fired up and then afterwards going, yeah, it was just a heat of the moment. I got to tell you, John, I love it.
Yeah,
I thought it was so fantastic because he's not sitting on his hands. He's not sitting back. Was he leaning out over the plate? Well, Zach Neto crowds the plate. So he's right over the plate. And that's why he gets hit a lot. And I can understand the frustration. Was he right in this situation? Probably not, but I still loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Look, I tweeted it out and I was talking about, the Dodgers hitting the Padres hitting the Dodgers, Astros hitting the Angels. Stop putting jabronis on the mound who can't throw inside and throw at these guys' heads. Like, even if Neto was leaning over the plate, I mean, the worst thing that you could do is hit a guy in the head, and this one hit Neto on the hand. But there's so many jabronis across this league who can't throw inside. And they were talking about the guy who hit Tatis the other night for the Dodgers, saying, oh, he's a rookie. The guy's 27 years old and he's not been in the majors. Yeah. And now we know why. Yeah. And so it's just like across the league, it's just really ridiculous. Now, the first guy to jump out and get in Hunter Brown's face was good old Christian Moore.
Love it.
This is what he had to say. He said, that's my shortstop. He's the leader on this team. I don't know what really happened. I was just kind of back behind Trout when it all happened. The pitch came in and I was just defending my guy. That's all that this is. Now, I got to say, we like to have a little banter across Locked On Podcast Network, and Locked On Astros host Brett H-Town Wheelhouse tweeted before Saturday's game. He said, all right, is someone getting hit in this game? And I didn't respond there, but here's what I want to say. Brett H-Town, Brett Tholomew, Brett Thew, I just want you to know that the Angels are classy. They're a classy organization. They have classy players. And so, no, there's not going to be any ill will there. And, we just don't do it like the Trastros do it. So nobody's going to get hit. And I didn't think anybody would get hit. So there you go. That's for our friends over at Locked On Astros. Hopefully they'll see it, but if not, that's okay, because then, we can talk about it later.
Yeah. Christian Moore actually was talked about on Sunday by Zach Neto. He didn't start the game and then later on came in the game. We'll get to that in the third segment, but Zach said that Christian Moore has played his time in the big leagues perfectly. He has not talked and he's just listened. And I love that. I love that he's a guy who's just listening, taking things in. And I also love that he was the first guy to get in Hunter Brown's face and say, I don't know what happened, but you can't hit my favorite guy. You can't hit our star.
Here's the other thing too. And I purposely didn't ask Chris Cortez about this because he's been asked about it before. Remember, him and Christian Moore were John in the College World Series at each other. So we got some guys with some fire on this team. And I didn't ask Chris about it because Chris has addressed it and already said, yeah, we're good. Me and Christian Moore are good. We're just competitors. And that's really what this is. At the end of the day, is all of these guys are just really good competitors. And Mike, they're vocal. And the reason why that's significant is because it feels like Ron Washington maybe couldn't get vocal the way that we have wanted him to for the last couple of months because of the biggest news that happened before the game. We learned that he will be out as the manager indefinitely due to a health concern. We're not sure what the health concern is, but one of the things that we have said is Ron's 73, 74 years old. Maybe he can't be the one screaming and yelling. And that's why you always see Barry Enright out there getting hot, like on Ron's behalf, which I think is awesome. But with this news, felt like it made a little more sense, right, Mike?
Yeah, it did. And maybe Barry Enright is being the vocal leader for Ron Washington. Every time there's been some yelling, it's Ron kind of playing peacemaker in between. I loved just a couple of nights ago where Ron runs out with his hands up and he's like keeping the ump back and he's keeping his pitching coach back. Now, Ray Montgomery's going to manage the team moving forward. Ryan Goings is going to act as the bench coach and Jerry Narin's going to be next to him. Now, this deserves a full segment of conversation. So we're actually going to talk about this more in depth on tomorrow's show. So don't miss out on that. We also got news before the game, John, that Gustavo Campero is being called up and Jorge Soler has lower back inflammation. He's going to go on the 10-day IL, retroactive to June 18th. Now, Soler said the back flared up a couple of weeks or about a week ago, but he said it didn't have anything to do with his offense. He said, I just wasn't hitting. I sucked. And so that was the thing that I appreciated. He recognized, like, I'm just not hitting right now. And I'm hurting as well. So they give him some time on the IL.
Lower back, though, I mean, that's your whole, your whole trunk, Mike. You do those trunk twists in PE when you're a kid, right? And that's, the rotation of the hips and everything. If that's hurting, everything's hurting. So I understand him, just trying to be protective, trying to own his mistakes. But the fact is, if his lower back is hurting, then that's definitely going to affect his hitting. But we did get a nice contact hitter in Gustavo Campero. This Friday night loss was the Angels' first extra innings loss of the season. They've been 5-0 with a 15-6 record in one-run games. So 5-0 in extras and 15-6 in one-run games. Bummer, because the Angels had a chance, swung and missed their way to losing. Would they be able to rebound? Well, we're going to talk about Saturday night's game and our takeaways from that game. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, the Angels showed us that they aren't ready to compete quite yet. And we're going to explain what we mean in segment 3. So stick around and we'll get to that conversation coming right up.
Had to watch the Angel game with wonderful pistachios, and you can too. It's a great snack. It's delicious, nutritious, filled with all sorts of really good protein. In fact, Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value, packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep going all day long, especially when it's an extra inning game and you don't want to snack on anything that's not good for you. You want to snack on something that's good for you. I love the no-shell variety when I'm at home, and I love the in-shell variety when I'm at a game because it's fun to fiddle and it's fun to listen to what's happening and watching what's happening in front of you. So get snacking, get crackin with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Saturday's game was a huge win, Michael. 9-1 victory for the Angels. Let's get into some of our takeaways from Saturday. First up, Jose Soriano, spectacular in his third straight start, where he gave the Angels everything they needed to win a game. 6 2/3, just 3 hits and 1 run, 3 walks, and 10 strikeouts on 96 pitches. He had 19 swinging strikes in this game. In fact, there's a great tweet from Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register. He said 3 of Jose Soriano's top swinging strike games have come in his last 3 starts. 23 swinging strikes on June 10th, 19 on Saturday night, and 14 in his last start. Across those 3 starts, Jose Soriano has a 0.87 ERA with 28 strikeouts in 20 2/3 innings. What was the big change for him that he described, Mike?
He said that he's cleaned up his mechanics, and he thinks that's a big part of him having better results. So cleaning up his mechanics, making sure that he's succinct to the mound, to home plate off the mound, that he's not having extra movement. He's also not trying to snap the ball as much as he was trying to snap the ball, especially when he doesn't have a feel for his off-speed stuff or that really hard sinker. He's just cleaned that up, and he's having the same release point, and that's really helped him in the last 3 starts.
Yeah, Gubiza on the broadcast, I believe on Sunday, was talking about Soriano keeping his shoulder pointed where it needs to be pointed at the catcher and at the batter. That was a big part of it as well. And then you mentioned, snapping the pitch off, and the fact is it looked like he was kind of overthrowing, right? And everything that wasn't hitting the zone tended to be a little bit overthrowing. So it was almost trying too much and not being natural with it and letting your body do its natural thing in order to throw the pitches that he knows how to do. This is Matt Birch, Angels communication director, always has the great stats and facts about the Angels. He said Jose Soriano is the first Angels pitcher to work 6 2/3 plus innings, allow 1 or fewer runs in 3 consecutive starts since Hector Santiago from June 28th to July 10th, 2015. Just a reminder, we always say this, you can tell what kind of control Soriano will have based on how the first batter of the game goes, the first at bat of the game goes. And then in this one, Soriano struck out Jeremy Pena to start the game, did walk a guy and give up a hit, but came back to get Yainer Diaz to ground out and also struck out Cam Smith. So again, a phenomenal night from Jose Soriano, his 3rd fantastic start in a row.
Yeah, second takeaway, John. Logan O'Hoppe broke through on Friday night. 2 for 4, 4 RBIs. The 2 hits were home runs, his 14th and 15th of the season at the time. The first home run was in the bottom of the 3rd, and Taylor Ward was on base after a double. It was O'Hoppe's first home run, John, since the A's series in Sacramento on May 22nd. And then he hit his second home run. That was in the bottom of the 7th inning. His last 2-homer game was in that same A's series. May 21st is when he hit 2 home runs. By the way, Taylor Ward was on base after a walk again before Logan O'Hoppe, which is great. Now, Swilly Sports, who is a friend of the show, now working in New York, she tweeted something that she noticed between Friday's game and Saturday's game. John, she said Logan made an adjustment to sit more in his lower half, and it seemingly has worked for him because Friday he was struggling, but Saturday he did really well.
Yeah, she said, is it just me or does Logan seem really tall at the plate? And then the very next day, you see this change, and then he hits the 2 home runs. So between Friday and Saturday night, Logan must have checked Swilly's tweets and went, you know what? She's right. I'm gonna crouch a little bit more because that's what happened, Mike. Before, O'Hoppe was more upright, and on Saturday, his backside was more in a sitting position, so a little bit of a squat going on there. He's now 4 for 11 in his last 4 games with a double, 2 home runs. Previously, he had gone 3 weeks without an extra base hit. Speaking of Taylor Ward, he had 2 RBIs in this game. Luis Rengifo had a home run in this one, and he hit it in the 2nd inning, and Joe Adell was on base after a single. Listen to this. Rengifo is hitting .297 with an .874 OPS across his last 11 games. Hopefully it means that he's found something, and hopefully this means that he is adding to his trade value by the time the trade deadline comes around. So trade him while he's hot, Angels. Let's go.
Third takeaway, John. Angels had 11 hits and 9 total runs. Neto had 2 hits. Schanuel 2 hits. O'Hoppe 2 hits. Team was 3 for 8 with runners in scoring position, much better than the night before. So why have they struggled? Well, Jeff Fletcher asked Ray Montgomery about it. But first, let me give you some stats. The Angels have hit 121 with a 36% strikeout rate with runners in scoring positions over their previous 8 games entering Saturday night. We're 0 for 19 with runners in scoring position in the previous 3 games, including one game that they actually won. And for the season, the Angels have hit 243 with runners in scoring position, which puts them at about 18th in the major leagues. Their strikeout rate in those situations was 27%. Overall, Angels are hitting 224, 29th in the league, with a strikeout rate of 27% with runners in scoring position. Now, Ray Montgomery said of this recent slump, he doesn't think that it's an indication of a team-wide change in approach. He said, I don't get the sense that anybody's doing anything different pressing or trying to do something different. I just think there's ups and downs in the season. And when it's going good, you don't highlight on it and you feel good about it. Obviously, when it's not going well, it's pretty glaring. What do you think about what Ray Montgomery said? Very wash response, right?
I think it's worse than a wash response because it feels like the MO of the whole coaching staff is, it's just the ebb and flow of the season. It's like, no. I mean, obviously, O'Hoppe did something different. Obviously, Joe Adell and Jeff Fletcher had a great article on what Joe Adell's done different. Like, Nolan Schanuel is doing stuff different than they were a month ago. So all of that to say, no, things are different. And so it's more than just the ebbs and flows of a season. It's quite actually some changes being made at the plate, unless you're Taylor Ward, who just, closes his eyes and guesses up there, which is, fine. It works 50% of the time, apparently. Final takeaway, Mike, this was a comfortable win. It was fun to have a 9-1 victory where the Halos got out to an early lead and were able to take it all the way to the end. Very rare for them this season having a comfortable win. In fact, they've only had 2 games this season when they had a 5+ run lead by the 6th inning. One was against the Rays in Tampa, aka George Steinbrenner Field, where the ball was flying around the yard. And then way back during the first homestand where they took on Cleveland in a 10-4 victory there on April 5th. Back to 2 games under 500 with one more game against the Astros on Sunday. Unfortunately, we know how this weekend turned out, but they're just trying to claw back into getting back to 500. We'll talk about Sunday's game in just a minute.
The NBA Finals are over, and now it's just all about baseball. So whether you're into baseball under the lights or maybe perhaps you're watching something other than baseball, like golf or soccer, FanDuel is letting you get in on all of the action. They're the best way to make every game more exciting. And if you're already following the action, why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on every game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. You can be watching and winning some money. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app gives fresh, new information with daily promotions every single day. It's always the best way to bet. It's so easy to use. There's a fast payout, and it makes regular season games that are kind of in the middle of the dog days of summer, it makes them must-watch events because you have an opportunity to win and win big. So whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or I'm watching my bet right into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it really fun to get in on all of the action. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
Sunday's game, the Angels lost 8-7 and fall to 3 games under 500. So close, yet so far away, because they had the opportunity to leave New York at 500. Didn't make that happen. They had the opportunity to get over 500 with a nice 3-game set against the Astros. Couldn't make that happen. And so here they are, 3 games under 500. Mike, our takeaways. This game felt like Angels are almost there, but not quite yet. Here's why. The young guys all made an impact. You saw Schanuel be really aggressive on the first pitch. He swung through it. Second pitch, Gusto thinks, hey, I can get him again. And he crushes that fastball to right and hits the home run. So the young guys are making an impact here, but the veterans just couldn't seem to support the team. We'll talk about that. But first, let's continue to talk about those young guys. Why don't you start us with Logan O'Hoppe, Mike?
Yeah, got his 17th home run of the season in this game. Again, came after a Taylor Ward double. So runners on base in front of Logan O'Hoppe the last 2 games have been great. Now, Lance Parrish is the last Angel to hit as a catcher, 20-plus home runs in a season. In fact, he owns the record, 24 home runs in 1990. And Logan O'Hoppe, with his 17th home run on the season, he's hit 15 of them as a catcher, and he has the most home runs by any Angel catcher before the All-Star game, and that's the most in franchise history. So that's exciting for Logan O'Hoppe, who has really been struggling. Now, Nolan Schanuel, you mentioned, he hit a massive home run in this game, his 6th home run of the year. It was a 3-run shot in the bottom of the 5th inning, and Schanuel said that he made an adjustment this year, that he wasn't just looking for his pitch, but he was hunting for a pitch that he can do damage on. And what we saw is something that you explained, John. First pitch of the at-bat, he swung hard on the pitch that was up. He missed it. The second pitch was a bit higher, but Schanuel sped up his bat and crushed that ball to right field. And that was a spectacular sight to see. But it wasn't the only thing that he did in the game, right, John?
Yeah. You know what's funny? The fifth inning has been his best inning. He's slashing .292 with a .393 on base percentage and a .417 slugging percentage. So that totals a .810 OPS in the fifth inning. He got his fourth RBI in the bottom of the seventh, singled to left field, and Kevin Newman scored. Schanuel is hitting .315 and has 21 RBIs with runners in scoring position. I was real nervous about Kevin Newman coming home on that hit. Yeah. But the cool thing is that Schanuel hit it the other way. Mike, he seems like one of the only guys on the team sometimes who's making adjustments like that. Can we all follow the Schanuel method? Because he might not have the most power in the world, but if guys kind of had an approach like him, there would be some home runs the opposite way, and there would be some stuff into the gap. So Schanuel was just on a tear in Sunday's game, but unfortunately didn't amount to a win. And that's, again, not necessarily because of the young guys, right? Yeah,
it's because of the vets. So Mike Trout really struggled in this game. John, Angels hit the tying runs on base in the seventh inning, and Trout killed that rally by striking out on 3 consecutive sliders. The first 2 he didn't even swing at, and the last one was down and out of the zone. It was so bad that Wayne Randazzo and Mark Gubicza said nothing after that strikeout on the broadcast. There was 30 seconds of silence. It was not a great at bat. Now, I know he had another one in the 9th inning, and I'll get to that in a minute. I don't think that was a bad at bat. I think that this was his worst at bat of the day, and this is where they lost the game because they could have put a lot of pressure on the Astros in this moment. But Trout just looked like a rook up there and not a vet, swinging at a really terrible pitch, and then watching the first 2 pitches hit the strike zone. He didn't do anything, and it was the same pitch in the same place for 2 strikes, and then they threw it way out of the zone, and he swung right over it.
Yeah, that's the thing, Mike, is you can count on Trout to have a patient at bat more likely than not. In fact, the one he had later in the game was a 3-1 count against Josh Hader, and I'm not going to fault him for hitting, what was that ball, 103 off the bat, right? And it was, it was going to fall in, but Jake Myers was just all over the place for the Astros. I think I need to pick him up in fantasy, by the way, once this week is over. But all of that to say, Trout is just not aggressive. And I think that's to his detriment sometimes. I know that they always say, well, Trout never swings at the first pitch. Maybe he should. Maybe he should start swinging at the first pitch. Yeah. Maybe he should be like Schanuel and say, I'm hunting for a pitch that I can do something with. Because, more often than not, it's good to see Trout work an at-bat, because some of these guys don't work at bats, Mike. And so it's refreshing for Trout to do that. However, what would be more refreshing is to see him attack pitches in the zone. I know maybe you're waiting on one pitch to see what this guy has, but the fact is, dude, you're Mike Trout. You got to crush these guys when they bring it in the zone, because you're better than these guys on their best day, right? Yeah. Your worst day is their best day. And so for him to not attack, that really is to his detriment right now.
Well, and he's got a great average and a great slash line with runners in scoring position. So this narrative of Trout's not clutch, I get it. And I would say the same thing, but with runners in scoring position, he's been good. He's hitting .324. But John, as the game goes on, I was actually pretty surprised, because Trout gets worse as the game progresses into later innings. So let me give you an example. First inning to 5th inning, Trout has a great batting average. In the first inning, he's hitting .326. In the second inning, .500. Third inning, .273. Fourth inning, .381. Fifth inning, .278. But once the 6th inning happens, Trout really struggles. He's hitting .077 in the 6th, .182 in the 7th, 50 in the 8th, and .133 in the 9th. So is Trout clutch? Well, with runners in scoring position, .324, he's good. But as the game goes on, that clutch question is actually, it's true. he's not clutch because as the game goes on, he just gets worse and worse and worse.
It's interesting because, he's got a 324 average with runners in scoring position. So, he's succeeding 32.5% of the time. But maybe the rest of that, Mike, the 55%, is all, like you said, 6 through 9 innings. That's probably the part where, he doesn't have a 500 average with runners in scoring position. That's super eye-opening. So, third, let's talk about struggling vets. Hendricks and Hunter Strickland struggled in this game. Hendricks gave up 4 hits on not runs, I guess you could say, through the first 4 innings. In the 5th inning, Hendricks gave up 4 runs on 4 hits that were 3 earned. What happened in the 5th? Well, he was hit hard. Some of the exit velocities from the first 4 innings were 68.5, 67.8, 47.4, 79.7. But then in the 5th inning, all of a sudden he's getting hit super hard. 99.1 miles an hour, 98, 106, right? So stuff is just leaving the bat and getting crushed. And the reason why is because he was missing his spots. And normally he pitches on the corners. Most of his pitches that went for hits in this one were near the middle of the plate. So all in all, Hendricks went 5 innings, 8 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk, and 2 Ks. There was, an issue over at third base, of course, that happened later on with Luis Rengifo we'll talk about. He came back out for the 6th inning, but he walked Cooper Hummel on 4 pitches. And when, Hendricks is throwing up 4 straight balls out of the zone, he just doesn't have it anymore, right?
Yeah, and then Hunter Strickland entered the game and immediately gave up a 2-run home run to DeBon. Was his 2nd home run of the game, and that was the first run that Strickland's given up this season, and he really struggled. 3 runs on 3 hits. He walked 2. He struck out 1. Ray Montgomery did ask him to fight through it, so I did appreciate that, but the Astros had 4 runs in back-to-back innings in the 5th and in the 6th inning. And you mentioned Luis Rengifo. He was another vet that struggled, John. We just need somebody else at third base because he just can't seem to get it together over there. And he did it all weekend long. Ground balls to him, takes him 45 minutes to throw it across the diamond. I don't know what you're trying to show off, but you don't need to do that. Yeah. But the error that cost the Angels a run, it cost them 2 runs, was a ground ball to him that popped off of his glove. John, it was his 8th error at third base this season. Doesn't have any errors at second base, but he's got 8 at third base because he's just not good over there. And he's playing over there because Moncada isn't available right now. And he said that he's just feeling pain in his knee still. So he's not anywhere close to coming back. So I think we're kind of stuck with Rengifo at third base unless they put somebody else there. But Kevin Newman would be the option, and he hasn't been great at third base defensively either.
No, and Kevin Newman was awful to start this game at shortstop with plays that could have been made and slow rollers out to him, just not as aggressive as Neto, not as quick as Neto. One, he lost the grip on, and so he couldn't throw it over the first base. So you immediately felt the impact of Zach Neto not being on the field. And the problem is like you're trying to give the guy a rest day. He did come in and hit that pinch hit home run to bring the Angels closer later in the 9th inning. But man, it's just such a night and day difference when Neto is on the field and when he's not. And he's very rarely not on the field, but you got to get a guy off his legs every now and then. But you don't have anybody you can go to right now that's as good as him or even like competent, Mike. It's really, really frustrating to watch when the Angels try to move some pieces around and give guys time off their legs, but there's just nobody there who can pick up the slack on this team.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now check out Locked On MLB Game Night. You're going to love this. It's every game, every night, all season long, and you can find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show. Get in the comment section because we'd love to hear from you, and we'll respond to you on YouTube. Try to get back to everybody there. Mike, on Tuesday, we got to have an important conversation, don't we?
Yeah, let's talk about Wash, and let's talk about his announcement that he's going to take a leave of absence. It's indefinite. But then as the weekend went on, it didn't sound as terrible as Friday sounded. And so we're going to talk about what some of the players said, what Perry Manassian said, and what Wash said. And then I got a really important question that I want to ask you, and I want to ask our everydayers. And we'll talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
I got to say, Barry Enright finding out little nuggets, helping his pitchers get better. I love that.
Stud.